Welcome students. In this video we once again discuss two types of phrase, and they are the prepositional phrase and the verb phrase. So let's begin our deliberation with the prepositional phrase. The prepositional phrase. Now what phrases are called as the prepositional phrase? The prepositional phrase is a phrase that begins with a preposition and ends in a noun, pronoun, or a noun phrase. So when you Google it in Merriam-Webster, you will read this definition. So the prepositional phrase is typically a phrase that begins with a preposition and it takes a noun, a pronoun, or a noun phrase as its object. So let's see the structure of the prepositional phrase. The PP is introduced by a preposition, and hence the structure of a PP is preposition plus noun phrase. The post modifiers of PPs are always NPs. The function of the prepositional phrase. In the clause, PPs function as adverbials, whereas in the phrases, PPs act as post modifiers. So let's see the examples. So he ran across the road. In this particular example, across the road is a PP which functions as an adverbial. So in a tree diagram method, let's see this example. So the NP is composed of two elements, pre-modifier, the determiner, and head word noun, which is road. So this is an NP which functions as post modifier or an object of this PP, whereas preposition is head and the PP in this clause functions as an adverbial. In this particular example, she is the most beautiful girl in the class. In the class is the prepositional phrase which functions as post modifier. While discussing the prepositional phrases, we have to notice that prepositions are part of prepositional verbs and phrasal verbs, and in prepositional verbs and phrasal verbs, prepositions cannot be separated from the verbs. For example, when we see these two examples, birds live in the nest. So here in is not part of this predicator, but in this particular sentence, the gangs indulge in war. In is a part of this particular verb which cannot be separated from indulge. So we have certain examples like switch on or switch off, take on, take off, which we put into the category of prepositional verbs or phrasal verbs, wherein we cannot separate a preposition from the verb. So this care must be taken while understanding the prepositional phrase. So let's move on to the next phrase, the verb phrase. The verb phrase is the most important phrase of the all phrases because it is the only phrase that functions as the predicator, which is an essential element, which is an inseparable part of clause. So the structure of the verb phrase is, the structure of verb phrase is a little bit different from other phrases as the elements in the verb phrase are different from other phrases. So let's see the elements of the verb phrase. A verb phrase contains two types of element, the main verb and the auxiliaries. The auxiliaries are optional elements and precede the main verb. So the structure of the VP is, a VP contains auxiliary, 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 auxiliary and main verb. So the maximum number of auxiliaries that we have in a verb phrase is 4, and the minimum number of auxiliaries is of course 0. So a VP can have any number of auxiliaries from 0 up to 4. The auxiliaries may stand for modal, perfective aspect, progressive aspect and passive aspect. Modal is always filled by one of the modal verbs, modal auxiliaries. Perfective is always filled by the primary verb have. Progressive and passive are always filled by the primary verb be. and the main verb position can be filled either by any full verb or by one of the primary verbs have, be or do. So the structure of VP is modal, perfective, progressive, passive and finally the main verb. The function of VP. The VP is the most pivotal element in the clause and always functions as predicator. So it is the privilege of VP that the only phrase that functions as predicator in the clause is VP. So in these examples, the branch might have been being shaken. We have four auxiliaries, whereas in remaining examples, in the second example, we have one auxiliary, and in the third example, we have no auxiliaries. So let's see this. So might is a modal auxiliary. Have, perfective, been and being, they stand for progressive and passive, and shaken is the third past participle of the verb, and that's why it is shown as VEN, which is the main verb, and remaining preceding all four auxiliaries. So this verb phrase functions as predicator. So in this sentence, here you may not be able to see can and sing. So this model stands for can, this vi stands for sing. So it is main verb and this is an auxiliary, so vp again functioning as predicator, and in this sentence, sorry, in this phrase, this is the second past participle, she ran. So that's why it is shown as PED form, which functions as main verb of the VP, which functions in turn as predicator. So with this discussion, we end here. Thank you very much.